All right, good afternoon. Today, we're going to be doing a Q&A for Section 8, housing and low-income housing. Man, I've got some exciting news because, we've been waiting all year, especially to get through summer, which is the worst possible time of the season in order to get housing. And as you see, my co-host here is having a nap. She's a good employee, but sometimes she gets a little tired. But today's video will be in principle about questions and answers for those of you that may have questions about housing, Section 8 vouchers. While we wait for a few people to show up, I'm going to do some introductions. I am the owner of Section 8 Consulting. I work with around 700 to 1,000 clients a year. And we work with clients to help them navigate a very difficult system and get vouchers, housing, and other issues, which can be a wide range of legal and non-legal issues, okay? Now, the exciting news, guys, look, if there's ever a video I have ever made, and I've made over 600 over a decade, and over my 21-year career of doing this, I've got to tell you that October 1st will be the most exciting time for any of you to deal with vouchers, because more is going to happen on October 1st than probably the history of Section 8. Number one, the administration that is currently in place is issuing 20,000 vouchers nationwide. We're going to see a tidal wave of vouchers. Many of you knew from earlier videos in the year that we were discussing an opportunity for vouchers for everybody, which would have been a little bit different video. But so, to my surprise, the pandemic has come and gone, and this is how they've addressed it. 20,000 vouchers is an incredible number. I mean, even when you divide that out by the county, that's an incredible number. The second thing that's fixing to blow your mind is, I've got a lot of clients that I deal with every month, and HUD is issuing finally the new market rates on October 1st for 2023. Now, though we got a few months to go, you're going to see some magnificently bigger numbers. In other words, your vouchers and those of you seeking vouchers now will have rents that are closer to the adjusted market and inflation and everything else. So these numbers are looking really good. And if you're a landlord, you're really going to be chomping at the bit, because this means that it just means all around that vouchers in principle are going to be worth a lot more now. And that means a lot of you that have been badgering me to death and my office managers about this, you better get that. And the one thing that I rarely see in my career ever happen, and it's never very often, is the city of Los Angeles and LA County, for the first time in forever, is opening their waiting list. They haven't given a specific date, but I'm almost certain it'll be October 1st or right next to that. So that, for those that don't know, California is always having a housing crisis. The worst it's ever been in the last 3 years. It is the absolute epicenter of housing. And so the really good news is they're opening. For all of you that are clients, we will be pursuing that at a lightning rate, okay? So we're going to try to jump ahead of the crowd and try to process. I'm going to try to process as many clients as I can for LA and Orange, because this is such a rare opportunity, and I can assure you that list won't remain open very long. So it's important that you have the right information and that you're applying in the right manner, so you're considered a priority. So you're prioritized higher, okay? So LA is the tough. That's the toughest of all cities in America. Beyond that, today, if you have questions or concerns about housing, now would be a great time to ask. Now, many of you that don't know me may just know me by the YouTube channel, maybe just popped up today, or maybe you found us through section8consulting.com. I challenge any person in America. You're welcome to check our reputation. We've never had a federal investigation. We've never been looked into by the DOJ. We're a registered business. We have registry through the Secretary of State. For Texas, we operate in every state in America. This is a federal program, so that means we operate in all 50 states. We've had an endurable reputation. Clearly, people can buy reviews, but we have many. I mean, we're talking over 200, and our success rate, and I like to be, one of the things that I do very well in my videos is, besides speaking to people like in a manner where you have a little bit of respect for them, unlike what you deal with when you deal with housing authorities, is I don't sugarcoat shit, okay? And what I mean by that is people have had enough nonsense, so they don't want to be lied to. And so one thing that operatively that we do very well at my company is do what almost everybody else fails at. And that is making sure that we're not selling fantasies, unicorns, and delusions, you see? We have a realistic expectation of the system to educate our clients to be able to get through it, to find the vouchers and housing, and a realistic expectations of timelines. That's really critical. Housing is a extraordinarily difficult issue to address. There's a surmountable amount of information, I would say, dealing with 5,300 counties. Each county has, in principle, one housing authority. And a lot of you believe the housing authority only has one set of rules. It does not. Each housing authority takes a boilerplate manual, and then they change that manual to fit and address the community that they're in, to service the people there. That means that every housing authority has four essential things that they're operating by. One, policies, procedures, data manuals, assessment manuals, and I forget the fifth, sorry. But those of you that are curious about operation procedure, let me tell you something. This is not about tips and tricks and writing little books and pamphlets and all the other nonsense that you'll find in almost every other video being made on YouTube. This is about understanding, in principle, Title 24, Code of Federal Regulation in its entirety, every piece of legislation written, every policy, procedure, data manual, operation manual, COC system. So that's how you can distinguish yourself from watching the video where a person may be a party clown one day, but an expert at Section 8 vouchers the next, or maybe they're also got a PhD in fidget spinners, to a person like myself that has been studied over 21 years, that you could actually see the physical documentation in our entire career, and it's verifiable. That's the difference between rodeo clowns and people that actually understand how to be able to deliver that information to clients, to be able to have results. Success rate. Let's talk about honesty. Let's be realistic. People sell lots of snake oil. That's just the reality of the world. People will try to sell you anything they can, and they don't care. The reality is, with our company, is we have our success rate prior to the pandemic of around 91%. After, and during the pandemic, it dropped as low as 87%. What does that really mean? Let's be perfectly honest. It means that roughly 9 to 13% of the time, you would be better off taking your money to a casino and then throwing it out the car window than paying my company to assist you. Why is that number so high? And why are we so brutally honest about it? Well, first of all, I did explain in the beginning of the video, I'm not going to pull any punches with this. There's anybody claiming to do something perfect, that's going to be not the truth. Number two, clients. Many of our clients can be old, they can be young, they can have mental health problems. And so all these things factor into people not wanting to answer the phone. They book casework, can't be bothered to listen to anything we have to say, people that have mental meltdowns, all kinds of issues that screw up cases. Okay. So it's not the magnitude of what our company does for clients. It's the magnitude of whether or not a person's drowning and whether they want to actually help themselves. And, I always tell clients, it's never a matter of whether you would get a voucher or housing. It's just a matter of course of time, so let's just be realistic about that. So it looks like we got a few comments here. I'll take them on. And I noticed lately, since I've been gone for 3 weeks, I posted a video the other day. And of course, it grabbed, I guess YouTube liked to publish it because we got a few extremists in here. They made some comments, and I quite enjoyed those. But yeah. All right, so moving on. Lubbock says, also, what happens if a case, and by the way, this is live video, live chat, at least for now. It was on to say also, what happens if a case is not finished in 4 months? Well, we're in principle under federal rules. We're in a 12-month contractual agreement. Typically, we finish in 4 months. That's around 98% of cases. In some cases, it may take longer. And at that point, as long as it's not I think when you reach really that point and you go over that, we have two courses of action. One, we could work on a little bit longer, maybe a month or so to see. And two, we may have to consider different options. The reality it is, again, we have to go back to, it's not an issue of a voucher that we're particularly worried about and why it's taking 4 months or longer. It's whether or not you're constraining my company to get a voucher in an area where we clearly know that it cannot be gotten. There are thousands of counties that have vouchers that can't issue. So will you force me into only being able to look into vouchers in one zip code? I can only live in this neighborhood. That's the kind of stuff that makes a case drag on. So it's not about whether you get it. It's whether or not you're going to put a chokehold or a bottleneck in the case that's going to prevent us from successfully completing it. And if it becomes too much of a disadvantage, then I'll just simply give a person their money back because I don't need the headache more than anybody else does. Let's be honest. People call me every day. I have no issue with giving people their money back because I'd rather just not deal with a nonsense situation where the client believes in principle that they want to drag it on forever. This is not going to work that way. Moving on. Cookie, welcome, Cookie Dough. So we have the interesting name of the day. Cookie Dough goes on to say, "Hello, Jay. Hope you're doing well. Can you please share any information about porting today to a new location?" So that's called moves and portability under Title 24. And also, I think if you look at, let me see if I have that available right now. I'll see if I can link you up to it. Oh boy. So we look at an HTV manual, and you're looking for 7420.10G, should be the voucher program guide and housing choice manual. And the new current edition, let's see if I have that one. I do. So this is going to be under handbooks. There's roughly 281 manuals with a total of probably 15,000 pages. But portability is one in the subsection. And I'm going to link you up to that right now, HUD.gov. And then you can do what you need to do to look at portability. I will speak about it briefly. So portability moves is a request. If you successfully spent 12 months in the program, utilized the voucher, met all HAP contract policies, procedures, and rules, and you may request from the portability specialist or your caseworker the ability to port to a different state. That starts with submitting the request, which is verbal, okay, not a piece of paper. If they accept that, then they may contact the forwarding housing authority, which is in another county or even another state. And at that point, they may initiate what they call billing or absorbing. Billing simply means that they'll send a bill, say from Florida, back to where you live in Mississippi. If they decide to absorb, they will tell Mississippi, please terminate their voucher. We'll write our own fresh voucher in the state of Florida. Oh, excuse me. All right. So we're going to pause for just a minute. I'm going to block a few people because they're unable to control themselves. So occasionally we get people that have neuropathy of the brain. So I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of them. And gone. I'm just checking to make sure there are no other inappropriate comments. Okay. Occasionally we get Chinese and Russian here. They're selling everything from sex toys to drugs and everything else. And then you get people that fundamentally were born with loose screws and they're unable to conduct themselves. It's like having a small child in your channel, and then they start making, noises and other things. And then you have to put them out. That's the way you have to handle people that have a small acuity. They're unable to establish what reality is, and then they continue to stay in the channel and badger. All right, moving on. Michelle Jackson, good afternoon. How are you? And Michelle goes on to say, I'm interested when the funds will be available in Connecticut. Well, as much as I'd love to tell you, Ms. Jackson, here's what we're going to know. I think that the funding, vouchers, and I'm hoping that you're talking about vouchers or the new rent reasonableness. If those are the two cases, we should have some type of definitive answer around October 1st or a few days after, and you'll be sure that I'll publish a video in remarks to that. Moving on from that, Ms. Jackson goes, how long does it take for 8 and 11 section? Okay, so you're talking about subsection 811 of Code of Federal Regulation. So, guys, let's talk about an explanation when you hear these terms like, can I get section 811? Can I get section 504? For those of you who don't know, when you look into Code of Federal Regulation, it's written the same way the tax code's written. You have a bunch of different numbers, and these are subsections of Federal Code of Regulation. And that regulation, those particular parts are not vouchers. It means that the voucher is just a piece of paper or digital, and then a string is attached to funding. Here's a great example of attached funding. You go to the housing authority, you have all these different fundamental problems. That voucher is empty and nameless. When you attach a string to it, it comes from a subsection, probably a Code of Federal Regulation. So a mainstream voucher would be a person with no problems. If you are a senior with a disability, then they would attach a string from the subsection 202, which would be funding for those that are elderly with a disability. For those of you that may be a domestic violence victim, they may attach funding under another federal law, which would be under VAWA. If you're a person with HIV, they may be going through a program called HOPA. Some are in Code of Federal Regulation. Some of them are written in different ways that are not in the code, okay? So just so you guys know, when you apply, the answers you're giving determines which strings they can pull. And believe it or not, if you have a sophisticated case, there may be several strings. What if you're a senior and a disability? That means you're Section 202, but you're also a veteran. So now you got a HUD BAS string and a 202 string. But what if you also are maybe a college student? You decided you want to go back into school, but you're 77. Then you can attach a 504 string. And so the more strings attached to that voucher, the more powerful and fundamentally up it's going to go. What if you're all those things, plus you have HIV and you can attach a HOPA string? But you're also a person that just got out of a bad relationship with a domestic violence. Now you've got 6 strings in a voucher. That means fundamentally you got all these strings, which means when it comes time to pull a voucher for a client, it means that you're being considered in multiple ways. No problems in being young is probably the worst case you can have. Okay, and that's not so much being young, but now you understand in principle that the more attachments you can get to the vouchers, the more options. Here's another thing you don't know about housing authorities and vouchers. They're required by law to post that, hey, we were open, we've got vouchers, please come apply. Well, let me tell you why that's the truth, but never the whole truth. Well, let's just say they do a pop-up. We're going to be open 3 days in LA. We're giving out, 50,000 vouchers, right? But what they didn't tell you is the funding string they just got was let's say it's $12 million, but it's only for those that are homeless and a veteran. It's a combination of strings. Like when we do work for clients to hunt down the right counties and vouchers, the first thing we will always fundamentally want to know is not only why does the housing authority have vouchers, but how are those vouchers being funded? Who are they specifically looking to give it to? So they'll quietly reject everybody else. You thought you had a fair shot. No, you didn't. You never had a fair shot because the money they've received is only subjugated to the specific level of funding they've got. It's only entitled to those that were those specific issues. What if they wanted seniors and veterans? Those 2 strings. If you don't match those strings, you going down there means nothing. In other words, a lot of you guys are going there with a shot in the dark thinking you all got an even chance. You don't. The only way to get an even shot on a lottery is when they do a lottery. So most cases, if they open, it's a non-lottery, that can be influenced by strings. For those that are not looking for the influence, you do a lottery, but that's anybody. And usually they do lotteries when they have the too little vouchers. And then you just have to get mad when you find somebody that's 18 that has no problems, beats out a guy in a wheelchair. So it's not a fundamentally fair game either. That's why I say avoid lotteries, just go with housing authorities that are strictly just doing applications based on preferences. Man, that was a mouthful. All right. Michelle Jessica goes on, what is a disability wait list at housing authority? Well, Michelle, I'd love to, but each question you're asking requires about a half-hour response. So I can't do that, but I can tell you this. If a waiting list is open and they're looking to address the people that are disabled, then HUD has its own standard of disability. Just for you guys that don't know, you have the Social Security Administration. If you have a disability, you want to go get a check there, you go see a judge, you have a lawyer, it takes forever, you get the check, you got a disability, right? HUD's a different federal agency entirely. It does not require you to have that Social Security check or disability check, and nor is its rules as tough. In other words, HUD's rules for what they consider disability are much lower than what the Social Security Administration is. Why? Because they're only giving you a voucher, where with Social Security, they're actually giving you a check, okay? It requires more thought process. Crystal Addy goes on to say, hello, Jay. I hope you're doing well and enjoying the new home with your kitties. Yes, I am. We just put up Halloween decorations. I quite enjoyed that, and a gigantic spider, and I started way early. Oh, well. But, yeah, me and the cats are doing all right. I had to take about a month off because I got to tell you, the phones have been ringing so much that they're about to melt. So I've been struggling with, trying to keep going. Tony McMillan, thanks for all you do. I'm a homeless and I'm in HIMS system. For those of you who don't know, HIMS system is the Homeless Information Management System. That system utilizes 2 systems, the BOSS or BOSS system, or it would use SPDAT, SPDAT. Both of these are assessment metrics where they have prioritization and ask you a bunch of questions. Fundamentally, if you give the right answers, you get enough points. Those points are fed into the system, which is like an algorithm. That algorithm will gobble up those points, and you'll be given an option of three things. If you score too low, you get a referral to the food bank and a roll of free socks. If you score a little bit higher than that, then you may be offered what they call RRH, which is rapid rehousing. It's what I call an exploding voucher or a evaporating voucher. It's designed for people that have temporary issues, and then they may fund your rent. Say your rent's $1,000 the first month. What'll happen is they'll pay all $1,000, and then February they may pay $900, and then payments keep descending till they evaporate. That process can go as short as 6 months, and it could go up to 2 years if they really like you. Third option, PSH, permanent supportive housing. That's for those of you who have physical and mental disabilities that require more wraparound resources, and also an environment where you may enjoy some of the additional benefits like Meals on Wheels and other things. So supportive services included in housing, and you may accept or decline what goes on with that. That's under the program Continuum of Care Housing First, and that is what HIMS system is attached to, and then administered through SPDAT or the BOSS system. Okay. Moving on, Shirley Griffin, thank you for sharing. Shirley Griffin, excellent. Michelle Jackson, thank you. Well, I got to tell you guys, I'm glad to be back. As y'all know, I made another video the other day, but right now, I think if you've ever seen me excited, it's definitely now, because when you can compare the ability for our nation to kick out 20,000 vouchers in little than 30 days, this is, and also, what did they do specifically? Excuse me, 1 minute. That phone always has a meticulous time. I forgot to cut the volume. So you get 20,000 vouchers being kicked out around, October 1st. Now remember, it's the federal government. There's going to be a little bit of foot dragging. But the point is, as I told you guys, from all the way to March, when we leave March and April, we go in summertime. We're at peak season. Everybody wants to move. Everybody wants a voucher. Most miserable time of year to get it. We just left summer. It is now fall. So essentially, from mid-September all the way to March next year, this is when most people don't want vouchers. So this is when most people don't want to move. It's the best season to do it. And how ironic, and the government knows as well as I do, they issued the 20,000 vouchers on non-peak season. So it's a perfect timing, actually. The fact that LA is fixing to open up for the first time in forever, and the fact that we're being issued the new numbers for 2023, which means that vouchers fundamentally will be worth a hell of a lot more. I can't wait to show you guys the numbers on that, but it's going to actually start to match the market. Now, I knew the government would have to address that eventually. We have a pandemic. We are dealing with inflation. We're dealing with a recession. We're dealing with so many different things that have driven up costs, a housing shortage, and other things. So I think that this combination, this is the best storm of things I've ever seen happen, and happen during the best possible part of the year. So I got to tell you, man, if you're sitting on the sideline and you're considering this, you either need to get out there and learn what I learned, do what I do, or give our office a call, because you would be woefully messing up if you sit around and watch this bypass you from now to March. Because when we get to next summer, 2023, it's going to be another miserable run. And I can tell you, they're going to snap these vouchers up like it's a free cheese line. Just warning you guys, don't tell me later. Don't cry later about it when it's all gone. All right, guys, I'm going to check the time real quick, see where we are, because I don't want to make this too long of a video. I figure I've given y'all enough already where should be pretty happy. So we're at about 23 minutes, and we're going to kill it in about another 7 minutes. If you have a question in regards to Section 8 housing or anything else in relation to that or federal programs, you're welcome to ask now. Forever hold your peace. I'm also going to put up information about our company. And again, I challenge anybody that'd like to, that you may check our company's reputation. We have no DOJ filings, no FBI. We've never had an open investigation. We operated 21 years. We're ranked number 1 on Google across the nation. Probably one of the best known consultants in the country. I don't really actually think there's anybody a close second to me. We have our filings both at state and federal level, so we're crystal clear about what we do. I am not here as a person that makes a video specifically because I'm delusional. Okay? Been doing it for a long time. We're well established. I'm not one of these people that make fidget spinner videos and then decide I'm going to be some PhD in section and consulting. I have a well-established history of over a decade on YouTube, so I'll let my reputation speak for itself, but I think it's pretty pronounced. Crystal Addy, hey Jay, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're okay. Sorry, I read that one. Tony McMillian, thank you all for what you do. I am homeless. Okay, I see that. Looks like old comments. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Does anybody else have any other information? If not, I'm going to put up some information about us and our company. And I encourage you to examine every element of our company. Call whoever you need to. And I already know the answer you're going to get. You won't find one speck of dust in that 21-year career, period. I already know the answer to that. We also deal with landlords. And I think of the current this year, I think we've had, well, let's see if I can get this information in. I think this year we dealt with close to 60 landlords, a little bit lower than normal, but we've had a number of projects that are big where we had 500 units. So one of the nice things is sometimes when you live in cities where I have landlords like Chicago, LA, Florida, Houston, and so on, sometimes we can match up with landlords that are already fundamentally building properties. Now, that does not allow me to advantageously misdirect your application and make you seem more important. But I'm saying that I have a large social network of banks, investors, and properties around the country. I don't own them. But if you looked at every building, every client and landlord I dealt with over this career, I think you would find that portfolio would be over 200 million. And I'm willing to back that because if you go on our community page, which is on YouTube channel, you click on that photo, you go over to the tab that says community, you scroll through all those photos where we posted, you'll not only see hundreds of vouchers issued, which you can call the housing authority and verify they were issued, which were cases of ours. You can also see hundreds of landlords and gigantic properties that we had direct contact. And once again, you can pick up the phone and call them. Hey, did you have any interaction with sectionandconsultant.com? And when they tell you they do, then you'll understand exactly who I am and what I do. Now, again, I'm not here to sell anybody fantasies and rainbows. I want most of you to do your research, do your due diligence. If you can do this yourself, do it. I've had plenty of people that were successful. We've made over 600 videos. Nobody's trying to shake the loose change out of your pocket. This is if you've done your best and you can't do no more, you're tired, you're worried, you're tired, you've had enough dealing with this, then at that point, and only at that point, should you contact us. Okay? So I'm not here to market anything to anybody. I just want to make that very clear. The videos are about educating you folks. I've done it for free for over a decade. If you watch enough of them, you'll actually get what you need. But if you're tired and you need the help, then we're also just as good at doing that. And I want to address one final issue before I close up the video. On occasion, I get somebody that's a welfare recipient on food stamps that's never been able to, for some reason, figure out how to get a job. They'll come on the channel and say, you should be ashamed of yourself, Mr. Roulette, for charging people that don't have any money in order to get services. One, this is a lot like a service where it's optional. These videos are here to teach, right? It's an instrument to teach and help you weaponize your own case in order to get things. Here's the caveat. It could also be said to the person that would say something like that, that one, I'm not going to work for free, and neither are my office managers. Number two, a person that's already on welfare that needs a voucher plus a food stamp card and that prefers not to work and then gets pissed off because they don't understand why that I would ever charge, maybe they should consider their own position of sitting on welfare and asking everybody on the planet to sit there and hold their ass up. So let's just be honest. This is a resource for people that have tried everything and it doesn't work, okay? Unfortunately, I can't move my company under the bridge, quit paying my bills, move under the bridge, fire everybody, and then go give this out for free, okay? Because I've already done that. Now, over that 21 years, for approximately over a decade, I offered services at no cost. So when I get ignorant comments like that, I'm going to address them face first, okay? We cannot do this for free, period. I give, and let me tell you something, guys. Most people that even paid me the very smallest amount ended up with a hell of a lot more. You know, and that's another thing. You know, you make decisions. You didn't mind going to Starbucks with your food stamp card and getting a $55 coffee, but you have an issue with paying for 20 minutes of consult. We live in interesting times, you know, and the thing about it is I'm not a church, okay? I don't do that. If you want a church, call the church. They'll do it for free. They'll also pray for you. But that ain't going to give you a voucher, not unless God wants you to have it. All right, moving on to these comments. Nicole Drakeford. What can a woman with a daughter who is being kicked out by her husband do right now? Well, Mr. Drakeford, I would suggest to you that you need to make an immediate contact with the Housing First program because it will not require an income. Number two, depending on the circumstances of your cases, it is likely you could get a hotel voucher in lieu of being able to test out and see if they get a voucher. Okay, it's pretty effective, it's pretty fast, but it does a bit of a learning curve there. Yin Yang, are there increasing voucher amounts? Yes, they are. October 1st, HUD will publish the new voucher amounts and fair market rents. All right. When that happens, you'll see the new rent residuals change. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, how can I undo a termination? I need more information on that, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, for me to give you a good answer because I don't know what you've been terminated from. Nicole goes on, it's my daughter. Thank you so much. Anytime. Yin Yang says, thank you. Another interesting name of the day. I love these YouTube names you got. So, well, guys, I think I'll wrap it up. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. If I've offended you, oh, well, I really don't give a damn. If I'm able to help you, then I think that's fine. I don't particularly wear my feelings on my shoulder. I'm here as a public service to people in these videos for absolutely no cost. I poured so much time into helping you guys over the years, and pretty soon it'll make 30 years. Okay? So, oh, by the way, if y'all want to say hi to the new Kiki, y'all know that our rescue cats, this came from that litter where we had 3. So she's my new one of my new secretaries. She tends to take lunch break very early. I don't get a lot of work out of her, but she's very good with morale. So as y'all know, I have about 22 cat rescues. If you are a pet lover, then you'll quite enjoy me because I have random cats popping in and out my hair, off my office chair. You see, they have beautified my leather chair by popping holes all in the leather. But that's the price I'm willing to pay, is the destruction of my personal property for the care and pleasure of these animals. And I quite enjoy it. More questions here, it looks like. Neil Ace goes on to say, mother was illegally evicted while I was in a hospital, then discharged from a nursing facility. Well, when you deal with assisted living and nursing facilities, that will fall out of the purview of the federal government in respects to HUD. That becomes an issue of Medicare and Medicaid, and that's a whole different expertise you need in that area. Unfortunately, we don't practice anything in relation to housing for nursing homes, assisted living, Medicare, and Medicaid. So as much as I'd like to be able to help you, Mr. and Mrs. Ace, that's not something I can lend any meaningful answers to. Ying Yang Kitty. Love Bob says, I love Kiki. You should see the brother. He's a little hot rod. Crystal Addy, Crystal Addy goes on to say in the live chat, if a person has a substance abuse problem, are they not eligible for a program? Let's dispel some rumors because you know what? Channel 9 News and all the bullshit that comes out of the news all the time works both ways. They say bad things about Section 8 tenants, and they also misinform people. So let's dispel the biggest rumors. Number one, I've been convicted of a crime. I'll never get a Section 8 voucher. That got out of federal prison for robbing 12 banks. I successfully got him in the house days later. So, criminal records, not a problem unless you're a sex offender or you've been messing and convicted of a meth crime, okay? Number two, people that have drug addiction, alcohol addiction, other issues, it is not a problem. However, if you're not establishing that you're in some form of recovery and that you're just still smoking on a meth pipe and all that stuff, and that you're doing nothing to address that, then it will be an issue. However, most COC programs fundamentally do or design to help people with drinking and alcohol issues, along with a wide range of other issues. Rumor number three, I have mental health problems, bipolar, multiple personality, a wide range. I'm one of the probably the only consultant that I know of in the country that will even try to work with people that have low IQ, that have learning disabilities, that may have a close approximation to autism, Asperger's, schizophrenia. And I work with those clients because nobody else will. And it's not about money. It certainly is never about that. What it's about is this. If I don't help these people, nobody will. Most consultants do not fundamentally get involved personally. That means they're clocking in. Their only interest is in their money. And you would be too complicated of a case. I've taken a different approach. I'm trying to help the people who need it the most. I don't give a damn if you're schizophrenic or not. I think that there is an understanding if you work with our company that if you are having a meltdown, please wait till you're having your best moment of that day and then reach out to our office because we're not trained to be mental health folks. So I always just tell people if you have those kind of issues, we'll work with you. Just be reasonable with us, you know. City Survivor, what's been a minute? How are you doing? And City Survivor goes on, welcome to the family. I just lost count on how many babies you have now. So here's a quick countdown. We lost one kitten this year. We also lost another. So our count at current is 19 cats. And we went down for a little while. Then Lovebuck had 3 kittens. One kitten was adopted out, and I took the other 2. So, but at current, we're at 19. Nicole Draper asked, "What state?" We operate out of the city of Houston in Texas. Let's give some clarity because I know this is going to raise some questions. Well, Jay, you live in Texas. You only know about one housing authority. Wrong. I have roughly 5,300 operational procedure manuals for every county housing authority in America. This is a federal program, which means that if you are a consultant of any variation, it means you fundamentally must understand how to address it in every single zip code, city, town, and state, including Puerto Rico and Honolulu. I practice the entire U.S. Most of my clients do come from New York, New Jersey, Florida, Texas, and California. However, Georgia's been a big runner-up lately. So, hope that answers that question. But yes, my office is here. I also have property out in Arkansas. Little mixture there, and I was born and raised in Louisiana, so I hope that helps you out a little bit if you're wondering. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm getting hungry, and I've got a herd of cats that are probably dying to get treats right now. I think we've covered a broad range. I think I've delivered some good news. We've established a little bit about who I am, a little bit about me personally, and for those of you that are quietly watching, you make your own informed decisions. I'm just here to help. Our next video will be educational, and I'm going to be addressing those that have disabilities and those of you that are seniors, okay? I'm going to teach you some things that will fundamentally change the outcome of how you're addressing the housing authority and how they're considering you, whether high or low on a list, and how you could push that through. There's never a better time, guys. I'm warning you, this is the last call on this deal. This is never better. Right now, you're going to see the flood of the most vouchers you've ever seen. You're going to see more housing authorities ever open than there ever was. You're going to see the best of the best, and the party's over in March. We're now going to be returning after this mid next year. We're going to be returning to the old system. Pandemic's gone, folks. That means the old system will come back, and the voucher party and the housing party and the money party, stimulus check, all that stuff's going to evaporate. So, if you don't get your business done by next March, it's going to be a lot like dealing with us when you would have dealt with us prior to the pandemic, and that would have been in 2018 or 2019. You would be foolish to sit there and think too hard. A few more comments. Amber, what can I do if I'm in Virginia? If they tell me the housing list is closed, but my daughter in need of immediate housing, well, that's okay, because one thing that most people fundamentally don't recognize is the housing authority is not the only place that can actually issue a voucher. You also have the continuum of care program. And if it's an emergency, they can address it as well. And you're thinking, oh, isn't that one of those silly church vouchers? No, it's not. It's actually an emergency housing voucher issued by the United States government. Housing authorities are not, and let me repeat this, they are not the only people that are allowed under federal rules to issue vouchers. Now imagine the shock of that, because most of you, 99.9% of you think the only place you can get a voucher is a housing authority. You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. And anybody wants to challenge me, I've got a nice manual. It's around 1,300 pages to teach you different, okay? Elsa Shaw says, how does one get reasonable accommodation for an extra bedroom? Okay, well, that's a complicated subject matter, but I will give you a broad range of how that could be potentially achieved. One, you need a lot of medical equipment that could be that's taking up too much room. Number two, let me readjust that question. How does one get a reasonable accommodation for an extra bedroom? I would say one, you've got a worker or care aide that needs the extra room in their own room. Number two, if you have a child of a different gender that's over the age of 5. Number three, the accommodation could be based on severe disability. And 4, and that also depends on the state. Florida and California can come and literally hang a sheet in your living room and call your living room a bedroom. So be careful. Sometimes the accommodation you request, you'll just get a worker that will pop by the dollar store, buy a sheet and tack it up in your living room and congratulate you. Then they'll giggle and walk right out your place. Okay. So you need to be checking to make sure that a second bedroom accommodation in Florida and California, that you're not in a county where they have this ridiculous rules. Okay. Moving on, Amber is my daughter, Nicole Drake says. Well, thank you so much. Crystal Addy, thank you. Elsa Shaw says, yep, or yeah. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. I'm getting out of here. And let me give you all that information I was going to give you real quick. Here come the links. You all knew it was coming. So I just have to take some of it out. And they only allow comments to be so big. A little bit of information about our company, a couple links, check it out, verify it, do what you need to do for due diligence and for legal purposes. If everything matches and you've done your best, then I would say that if your car is broke, call a mechanic. If your ability to get a voucher is broken, then you might want to give us a call or any other person that has a legitimate licensed business with a reputation match. All right? Y'all have a great night. Bye-bye.